Today we're going to be installing this Mala air filter in the S1000R, and to do that we're going to have to take off this cover that is on top of the tank to get to the air filter, which is below here. To remove the cover, I've got to unscrew 3 bolts. The bolt that is in front here, and this here is a little strap for my Wunderlich sport bag that goes on top of here that I don't use right now. And the other 2 screws are back here. These again are put on for the Wunderlich tank bag. So they've just got these little knobs at the top that you can push the tank bag onto the tank cover. So we just have to use a little socket to remove these 2 and a Torx to remove that. When I put this back together, I won't be putting this strap back because I don't use the Wunderlich bag anymore. So I'm going to just put that aside and keep it with the bag that I have. So that is off. Set that aside. I am going to put this back because I don't have the screws for that. Even though I don't use the Wunderlich bag anymore, I still keep these little fittings. And when I take this one off, I'll show you what it looks like. See if I can get it in a shot. That's what it looks like. So it's just a little nut base here, but it has this little ball that you can push the bag onto. So with those 2 off, I should be able to remove this tank cover. By the way, this is the first time I'm doing this. Now, right here, there's a tab between this, and I'm not sure if I've got to take this bottom fairing off to remove this or not, but because it doesn't seem to just want to simply lift off. Oh, looks like these 2 screws have to come off too. So let's go ahead and do that. I did read the instructions, by the way, but somehow or the other, when I just read it just now, it didn't mention taking these additional screws out. It just said to take those 3, use those 3. But the screw I'm talking about is here. With these 2 screws undone, it's still not coming off and it's binding up right here. So I'm going to undo this screw here on both sides and see if I can just slacken this joint here. There's a little tab there. We'll try and get that out. With the screws off, everything is loose now, and the cover comes off fairly easily. You got to watch for this location here that it can scratch your cover, but take it off and set it aside. You can see this is all loose here now, and this is the tabs that I was talking about. Okay, so that's the first part done. Now this here is the ECU for the bike, and the filter is underneath here, so we've got to remove this screw here and then move the ECU out to the way. Let's see how easy that is. Does it have a washer? Doesn't look like it has a washer. The washer is built into that. So set that aside. Remember where all your fasteners go, I guess. And here is the ECU. It wants to come out, so it's just holding that. Now, is there anything at the back holding it down? I don't see anything at the back holding it down. So, okay. But it doesn't want to come up. It's hitting on this. So it would appear that I'd have to take this whole connector here off. I think this is the connector. And I've got to take this off somehow. So in the instruction that said to pull this forward and then move this whole assembly out of the way is garbage. basically I'm gonna have to take this ECU off. And the way to do that is to pull these two. These are two connectors here, here, and here, and there. There are two connectors, so you should be able to pull this forward like that. And the same thing for the back. Now I don't know how the heck I'm gonna get to pull that out, to pull that backwards, because I've got no way to get my hands in there. But let's get this one off first and see if it's any easier. Okay, so that's one off, out of the way. There's a little wire holding this back. There we go. So releasing that one connector here allows me to tip this thing back and out of the way. What I would do is get a rag here and then lay this back, just bend it back, get it out of my way. So let me go and do that. Next, I've got to take this little screw out here. And that screw fastens the little, I guess, plenum in front of the air filter frame. There we go. Oh, it's a screw, it's a fastener, it's one of these panel fasteners. This looks like it has to come out first before this can come out, but it's jammed in here by a foam. There's a foam gasket. The best way to do that is with the needle nose pliers. You just, because you can't grab on the sides of this. This is hard to grab on, so you just gotta pull it with the needle nose pliers. You probably put it, let me see if I can get it into the shot. You probably pull it here with the needle nose pliers and pull it out. Next is to get the filter itself, the filter housing out. It seems to be wedged in there somehow. Just got to fiddle with it a bit. Pull this forward and then lift the carrier out, it says. Now there's a hose on this side, and a hose on this side. If you can see, there's a hose here that's kind of running down to the side of the carrier, and the same thing on the other side. So I tell you, this is a real pain in the ass. The worst part of the job, I thought, was getting the ECU out. There's always some nonsense to deal with. Whatever you do, watch these hoses, because I'm sure if you damage the hoses, and they're probably breather hoses for the gas tank or something like that, you're probably gonna get yourself in more trouble. So fight with that. Get this thing out here without damaging the hoses. Okay, I finally managed to get it out without damaging the hoses. You can see the filter is not in too bad condition. It's fairly clean. I'm going to look through it at the light now and compare it with the new one. There are the two filters side by side. This one does have a lot of oily smell to it, of course. This one, of course, is the new one, so it's totally clean. I don't know if I can hold these two together up to the light and show you. That's the new one, and that's the old one. So I think it's a good decision to go change this now. So Mala LX 1841/1. Looks like it was made in 2018. This is an old filter. Anyway, you put it into the holder like this, with the pleated sides to the forward, and then just put it in, seat it down correctly, and then bring it back to the bike. Well, I didn't show you sliding it back in, but basically I had to work it in past these hoses. I got that done. It's actually, it took less effort than I expected, so I was pleasantly surprised. Now I just got to go clip these, put these clips back on. That looks good. Hoses are routed again in front of this frame. Let us try fitting that little plenum here back in front and see how, oops, got it backwards, and see how it goes. Remember, this foam is to the front. Got to get my GPS wire out of the way. That went in really nicely this time. So I'm wondering why it took so much effort to take it out. But anyway, let's put the little screw back in here, the little fastener. Good, so this is back in place. This wire is in front, comfortably in front of this little triangular plenum. I routed the hoses to the front for now. I can't remember exactly where they were, if they were behind these clips or if they were in front, but oh well, so far they're out of the way, and I'm gonna bring my ECU back into position. They said to make sure that these rubber, I don't know what the hell they are, rubber grommets, and there are two tabs underneath here that I think that they come up against. Or maybe it slots in. It slots in. There's two tabs on here facing forward, and this bracket here fits in to those two tabs. So let's see if we can get this back in one piece. Push it back into position. All right, I'm gonna have to maneuver the back end so that it goes over those two tabs. But before I do that, let me connect this back again. There we go. And then you slide that forward and everything is connected back up. Now it should be just a matter of sliding this ECU back into position. That's the ECU screw there, keeps it in place. Sorry about the angles, but I'm shooting this all by myself. So if sometimes it's out of the shot, then so be it. ECU is very solid. It's not rattling at the back or anything like that. So I guess now it's just a matter of putting the top cover back into position, and that's just a matter of reversing the steps. I'm going to do a quick clean here and then put the cover back into position and rejoin the video in a minute. So that wraps up the installation of the air filter, which is part of the 6,000 mile check, maintenance service I should say, on the bike. I've got the cover back on, the tank cover. This little screw here, or this long screw here in front, is a little bit of a pain in the butt to get back in, because it has to go through a sleeve right down into the frame, I guess. And if you don't have the hole lined up correctly, you'll never catch the threads. So I had to kind of like slacken off the ECU screw that you saw me remove to lift the ECU up, slacken that off and pull it back a bit just so that I can get access to that hole all the way down into the frame for the other hole, right? Before I put the tank cover back on, I made sure that with the ECU screwed into place, I test fitted the screw in place and made sure that it was going to catch the threads before putting the tank cover back on. Because once you put a tank cover back on, you can't jiggle the ECU to make sure that that hole is lined up correctly. There's always some little nonsense that gets into the way that actually stops you from doing the job properly. Like you saw, removing that ECU out of the position that it was in, that took a significant chunk of time. And then struggling to get the airbox frame out of the way, that again took a little bit of time. Not so much, but that's not part of actually the replacement. On my RS over there, it's so easy. You take all the panels off and it comes right out. Anyway, it's done, and hope you got something out of this. Okay? If you did, give a like. If you didn't, just move on. Thanks.